Bill Gertz with us. He's senior editor of the Washington Free Beacon and national security columnist of the Washington Times. Bill, good to have you back with me, like we were often when I sit in here or on our local show in San Diego as well. Before we get to the China threat, and you literally wrote the book about that, the China threat, this Benghazi Committee, there have been closed-door meetings today, and obviously I don't expect you to know what's going on in their closed-door meetings. But we're told that, among other little tidbits, 60 Hillary Clinton emails on Libya withheld from that committee. So what are you watching as you look for smoke signals out of that?
Well, it's clear that the administration is trying to stonewall the committee. They regard it as somehow illegitimate and not a fully co-equal branch of government. The president never misses a chance to attack Congress in some way or another. So it's clear they have not turned over all of the emails that they should be turning over, that the committee, the Trey Gowdy committee, has requested as part of its investigation. Without those emails, there's always going to be questions, and it's certainly incumbent upon the committee to take tough action and subpoena them if necessary. It's clear they know what's going on behind the scenes, and the administration seems to be spinning the outcome of the committee by limiting access to certain emails.
Bill Gertz with us now about the whole issue of China, because I know we've got a little limited time with you today, but people can go to your website at gertzfile.com, G-E-R-T-Z, gertzfile.com. A week ago, actually, a week and then some, Friday, there was a story about the hack of 4 million federal employees. Then there are reports it could be 14 million, and it's a whole lot deeper than we thought. But that appears to be so yesterday. What do we now know about it? Because we're not hearing the politicians on this. It's sort of like, well, and in fact, the Obama administration says everybody shore up their security systems and do that by, 18 months from now. Good luck.
Well, to me, it's a scandal that the Obama administration is allowed to remain silent on what is shaping up to be one of the most damaging compromises of internal sensitive information since Edward Snowden flew off to Hong Kong with over 1 million classified documents. This is the second major security breach. It's clear that security is not a priority for the Obama administration, despite what White House spokesman Josh Earnest will say at the daily briefings. And what's appalling to me is that there's been no reaction. I mean, this is just emboldening the Chinese. It's clear from all the evidence and the forensic experts that I've talked to, both in government and outside of government, say that it's clear that a Chinese hacker group, likely linked to the Chinese military, was involved in this, what was essentially an intelligence gathering operation. And it keeps getting worse. First we had the OPM hack, and as you mentioned, now on last Friday, they announced that a second database of information, very sensitive information on U.S. personnel with security clearances. And this is raising questions about whether our intelligence personnel abroad have been compromised. Once you get that sensitive information used for security clearances, it can be used to trace people's identities, and that's really
to blackmail people and everything else. There's a lot of different ways that they could use that. So what do you see as next, or what needs to be next, Bill Gertz, in terms of doing something tangible? Is this we just sit back and trust that somewhere beyond our understanding the government is dealing with this, or is it just, okay, we'll let the Chinese get away with it? What can we do?
Well, it's basically cyber aggression. It's the president, when he was in Germany, he used the term cyber attack. We've been attacked by a foreign power, and if we learned anything from the Cold War in the last century, it's that if you don't respond to aggression, it continues, and that seems to be the case. Right now, the White House is talking about imposing some kind of feckless economic sanctions on some Chinese officials who do no business in the United States and would never travel here and would be unaffected by them. So it's one of these really just a symbolic feckless measure to try and punish some Chinese officials. I think that's
well, we're going to keep an eye on it. You can do that, by checking Bill Gertz's website, gertzfile.com. Thank you, Bill. More coming up, the Dennis Prager Show in a minute. Mark Larson here for Dennis Prager, talking with Bill Gertz from the the Free Beacon and the Washington Times. As we mentioned in the first segment, that Bill, for a minute I thought we were getting hacked because, these Chinese are very resourceful with the way they get into it here. And when no one's safe, I keep thinking about this with the federal information being hacked and how the same bureaucrats in Washington say, trust us, whether it's your tax stuff or Obamacare records, or they can't even keep their own house in order on so many fronts in terms of being bulletproof against these kind of out-of-the-country attacks.
Absolutely, and the problem is it's not the first time. I mean, we've seen a string of security failures under this administration. First with WikiLeaks, then with Snowden, and now with the Chinese hacking of the federal databases. I mean, this is we're under kind of a cyber assault, if you will, and now they say that they're going to upgrade security in all these facilities. Well, why didn't they do that in the past? We're spending millions of dollars on this cybersecurity, and yet very little seems to be done. It's kind of a failure of government.
Now, meanwhile, when it comes to the Chinese, and they're not alone in the hacking, certainly Putin and Russia, they've done plenty of that too, and denial of service attacks in Estonia and all the other nefarious things going on. But the Chinese government is busy saying if it's water, it's probably ours. I mean, it's not just the South China Sea. And you talk to any of our friends in the Navy who've come back from deployment in that region, just in the last couple of years, the People's Republic of China has really stepped up their presence in many ways that are becoming even more challenging, more tests out there, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the situation's getting more dangerous. You have an increasingly capable Chinese military. They're building ships, cranking them out, 60 last year, another 60 this year. And they've got a lot of hardware that they're going to want to try and test out. And I think that that leaves a lot of room for what they're, an unexpected military engagement that could lead to an escalation. And the Chinese are just not being reasonable in terms of trying to deal with this through international fora and other legal means. They're just saying, look, we're in charge here in this area. We don't want the United States in this area. And they're trying to force the United States. And under this president, I'm concerned that he will basically submit to that and give in to this Chinese pressure.
But with Ashton Carter as the Secretary of Defense, aren't we seeing a shift from the Obama administration when it comes to China? I mean, there's the pivot to the Pacific Rim. We see a lot of this here where I'm broadcasting in San Diego. More ships, although not nearly as many as people think, being shifted to duty in the Pacific. But what about that? Is it that they're getting rid of some of the conciliatory types of the Pentagon when it comes to China?
Yeah, rhetoric can only get you so far. The Chinese understand power very well. When you send 2 littoral combat ships to Singapore, or 2,000 troops to northern Australia, it doesn't send a signal of strength. It sends a signal of weakness. If you send 5 or 10 ships to Singapore, if you send 10,000 troops, a division to places like that, then you have it. So you have this kind of, it's actually a bipartisan problem. The foreign policy is words with loud words, incompetent actions, and limited means. I mean, they're just not serious about dealing with these problems. I always say that it's the problem with the Obama administration is they live in a delusional realm where they think that we have entered the postmodern era where all the world shares the same similar goals and cooperation, and it's only the fringe terrorist groups that really don't get along. Well, that's just turning out not to be true. You have Russia with its goals and objectives, which are anti-Western and anti-U.S., and China.
Well, they've been harassing our ships out there too. The Russian fighter planes coming a little too close for comfort again recently.
Yes, yeah. There was an incident over the Black Sea where a jet came within 20 feet of one of our reconnaissance aircraft, and again, this could lead to some kind of miscalculation and a military confrontation.
Well, plenty to watch, and you'll be on top of it if you check Bill Gertz's website. He's the senior editor at the Washington Free Beacon at freebeacon.com, also columnist of the Washington Times. Go to his All Things Gertz file, which is the Gertz file. Gertz file, Gertz, gertzfile.com. You can also check out books like he's written on the China Threat, called The China Threat. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate the update.
Thanks
for staying up on it. And go over and